I'd like to say welcome to our viewers. My name is James Alexander, and I have the tremendous honor of having Dr. Saul Weingarten, a noted psychiatrist, to discuss his book, My Daily Rules to Live By, How to Become a Better Person. Dr. Weingarten, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'd like to start off with a question. It is clear from reading your book that you tell the reader about some of your personal history. How did your personal history affect you in writing this book?
My history included, in the first chapter in the book, a description of my war experiences, in which I have seen human nature and people killing one another in a war, because I was a soldier in the Second World War. And I describe that in the book, my experiences. And during that time, I was really affected by people killing one another in such an awful, cruel manner. And later, in being a prisoner of war for 6 months, the very bad experiences, it accentuated my desire, though, to help people. And I realized that I would like to do things and help people in a way so that they would not need to fight wars, that they would not need to hurt one another, so that how could that be achieved? Well, I found that it's not readily achieved, because it seems history repeats itself and people are not kind and good to one another. It always seems as if there's something. I developed a passionate desire, though, to achieve that. And this is what has led me to write this book, ultimately, which is a product of 50 years of experience of working with people.
Well, Dr. Weingarten, it is definitely clear that you are very passionate about your work. You've worked with many different people over more than 50 years of your practice as a psychiatrist. You've worked with everyone from individual patients to couples to even prison inmates. What do you think makes My Daily Rules to Live By so helpful to such a variety of people? The daily rules have been collected information from the people that I have worked with. And that wide diversity of people have given me diverse reactions that people have and what helps them to be a better person in working with me. They express that in one way or another, including even prison inmates who want to be better people, but they don't know how. And that became evident to me. But when prisoners, for instance, told me that they were, as a result of my counseling, they were able to stop themselves, and that they felt so much better. They felt no longer a desire to hurt people. People who were murderers before no longer felt like doing that. So these learnings and what is involved in presenting this book are things that have been effective in producing better people. That is fascinating. Dr. Weingarten, in your book, My Daily Rules to Live By, How to Become a Better Person, you speak a lot about emotions and instincts. What would you say is perhaps the biggest takeaway that the reader, when it comes to controlling their emotions, what would be their biggest takeaway?
That
in controlling your emotions, generally, people want to do that. They know that they need to do that. They know that anger does not bring out the best person in them. They know that fear doesn't help them in their lives. However, in trying just solely to control yourself, that doesn't work very well, because when anger overcomes you, or fear, you don't know what to do, and you don't remember some advice that you've been given. However, you can readily remember to simply stop yourself. That's the most important point that this book actually has, is that people can stop themselves, and that all the different people I've worked with can stop themselves when they use this book. And they find that this is a practically miraculous sort of event. Stopping themselves becomes an automatic process, so that they don't need to be angry anymore with the person that they are feeling anger at. And suddenly they can see the good side of that person that they're reacting with anger to. If it's a husband and wife who might be angry at one another, why the person who uses the daily rules and tells themselves to stop their angry expression at their mate, suddenly both people become able to get closer together and relate to one another effectively and well, which is why I've had some very good results in working with couples.
It's so beneficial to be able to stop yourself when you are becoming angry, because you don't want to say something to someone, especially someone that you love and you care about. You don't want to say something that could be potentially harmful to that person.
Certainly, because of the fact that it often destroys marriages when people are angry at one another, who may have gotten married in love with one another. And once they learn that they can stop themselves, why then it frees their better self and brings out the better self in their mate. And people can be happy going forward. Prisoners who can stop themselves suddenly find that they're nicer to their families, that they're nicer to fellow inmates, that they don't disrupt things in the prison, and that they are different people than they were before they stopped themselves.
Well, it has been a great help to many. Dr. Weingarten, in your book, you have a chapter totally dedicated to the topic of pride. It sounds as though pride is almost an umbrella with so many emotions stemming from it. Human beings have to deal with these emotions on a regular basis. And I guess pride being an overarching instinct that people have to deal with. Do you consider that to be the case?
Yes. Everything, every interaction and every action, in fact, that we have, we don't realize it, but pride is guiding us or affecting us in one way or another. And it has a tremendous effect on all of our behaviors. In the chapter, I explain how it is that pride is actually both good and bad for us. We can use pride to help us feel good about ourselves, which is helpful when we're doing things that are worthwhile, when we're doing things that are creative. And it spurs us to keep going with work that is worthwhile, with relatedness that's worthwhile. But we don't realize when the pride comes in. So that, for instance, when a husband and wife
get into discord over a very minor item, like that dinner wasn't served as quickly as usual, and there's some anger. How come you didn't have the dinner on time? Immediately, that discord affects the person who prepared the dinner. She's hearing herself told that she's not a good wife anymore. She didn't prepare the dinner on time. And so she's upset by that. Now, why would somebody be upset over a trivial thing like that? Pride. Pride upsets us over trivial things because we're driven by pride's pushing us to be perfect, to have other people consider us as being perfect, as to have other people think well of us. We don't know how overarching that is, and it's very helpful. People who have read the book have told me that they haven't read anything about pride that has really helped them, but this chapter in the book has done so. And usually people don't realize that how important it is. All they know is that they feel that they're being told that they're not right.
It is amazing how quickly that instinct can take control of a person. The example that you use, something as small as not having the food prepared, can push people into saying or doing things that they will later regret. I guess it's most effective, the writing in your book on the chapter of pride.
Yes, and people need to realize that they need to consider that when they feel this very strong desire to prove that they're right. That's the way it manifests itself. That they have to be right, the other person has to be wrong.
I've heard you say on many occasions, if one person is 100% right, then that makes the other person 100% wrong.
Yes, if there's 100% to go around, then in a relationship, why then that can lead to a lengthy, ongoing dispute between a couple. It may even, very often I've heard people say that I got divorced because I wasn't respected. Well, being respected means that you have pride. And that issue of pride happens to be the most powerful driver of human behavior very often. And so that this is one of the things that they can learn in this book.
Thank you. Dr. Weingarten, speaking of learning from this book, why would one want to read the daily rules and my daily rules and learn to use them and make them effective in their life?
This book is unusual in that I've learned that advising people to just be mindful, be thoughtful, be a good person in relating to your people. This has been helpful in the early years of my work, but I always found that it wasn't a lasting kind of thing. People needed more counseling very often, and when I have helped people to see that they can stop themselves, that this allows people to help themselves. They don't need to do anything else. Once they learn that, very often they can keep doing that by, if they remember to stop themselves, that their behavior and their lives become better.
Yeah, it sounds as though it opens up a tremendous amount of self-awareness. Dr. Weingarten, the subtitle of your book, How to Become a Better Person. There are many self-help books that tell people how to improve their life and how to do better, but this book specifically tells people that it will show a person how to become a better person, specifically. So what about this book distinguishes it from the other self-help books?
Once again, the other self-help books give good advice about behavior. What this book says is that if you want to have better behavior with other people in interacting and want to be a better person in interacting, that this is something that they really don't know how to do. That the way nature is that when you feel like doing, you want to do it. If you get angry at somebody, the anger takes you over, regardless of what you've learned, often from a self-help book. Yes, it can help them at times. This offers a dramatic improvement in people, because in stopping themselves, in learning to stop themselves, in times when they're expressing something that that has anger involved with it, that the anger is so strong and it grows so fast that and it's so unrelenting. It's not easy to tell your anger to go away. It doesn't work. But simply telling yourself to stop. Nature takes care of the rest. It seems that if you tell yourself to stop expressing anger at this person, whoever it happens to be, that nature takes over. If you're not putting your energy into the anger and the hurting people and destroying people, suddenly you become a better person. It seems almost magical, but people tell me, like prisoners who may be angry and alienated from their family because they've been imprisoned and they're not able to help them to get along in life, why the prisoner, instead of accusing the family of not sending him money in prison, they apologize to the family for not being there.
Wow.
So that sort of change, I've seen it happen automatically without my having to counsel them. In effect, it shows that people, when they stop themselves, want to be better people. It's been a wonderful lesson for me in feeling good about the potential for this world of ours, that things in this world can be better, that human nature can be better, that human nature can improve. Using these rules, I believe, if they become widespread enough, that they will provide that.
Well, it is definitely most necessary in this day and age. If we look at what's going on in the world, it is most necessary. And hopefully the viewers will avail themselves of this book. Speaking of this book, why do you think it would be helpful to older people?
Actually, I live in Waterford here, which is average age of 85, and I've passed my 90th birthday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And many of the people there have read the book and have heard about the principles in it from me while I was writing it. And they have indicated that the book has been helpful to them. And they did not expect it to be, because they said, hey, we only have a few years to live. We can't read a book about how to become a better person, how to have a better life. We don't need it. And they find that it becomes very helpful to them, because suddenly they're able to relate to their children. And their children want to come to visit them if they are accepting of the children, not critical of them. Before, they would criticize their son or daughter, let's say, who says that I haven't been able to come by to visit you for the last couple of weeks because of the fact that I'm busy with the children who are in school now and they've had some problems that take up my time. Well, what happens with the daily rules is that they, instead of complaining why they and say that you should have come, and they say, oh, that's fine. I'd like you to come and visit me when you have time. And what they find is that the children find more time to come and visit them rather than that. There are other things that happen for older people. Generally, older people feel as though they don't have a great deal of aspiration in their lives to accomplish something. It's interesting that becoming a better person and using the daily rules has fascinated older people, and they often will give their copy when they've read it and find that it's helpful to them. They give it to their son or daughter to use.
Wow.
And because it's been so helpful, some of them find that they, like a 94-year-old woman who was very frightened of losing her memory, which was happening, and she uses the daily rules, and she finds that she's able to go to sleep more readily without worrying by simply saying stop. And that this seems to even improve her memory and improve her ability to take care of herself and going on beyond 94, which is a pretty good thing to do.
Definitely. You mentioned that you just passed your 91st birthday, which is remarkable. You're so energetic, and that's what a testament that is. Speaking of birthdays and gifts and presents, do you believe that my daily rules to live by would make a good birthday present, a gift, or a holiday present to someone, say maybe a child, a teenager?
Well, basically, I think it would be helpful. It can be helpful to anybody who is human.
Yes.
And because human beings can recognize, if they take the time to do so, when they're angry, they can recognize that they would do well to stop themselves because they should have done that often in their lives before. So they can realize that they would like their child, perhaps, who's an adult now or a teenager, to do better in their lives than they did. Many of them say that I wish I'd had this book earlier in my life so that I could have done better in some of my relationships. Yes, I think that I would vote for giving this book as a gift.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Well, you've been most cordial, and I appreciate your time. Well, one last question, Dr. Weingarten. If this book does have wide dissemination, and it goes across the country, across the world, and human beings actually practiced my daily rules to live by, do you think, if we can imagine, do you think in the next 10, 20, 30, maybe 50 years that this will be a different society, a different world?
That is my passion, that to have that happen. I would like to see this book disseminated. I realize it can take many years to get it that widely disseminated. I presently have a Spanish edition, which will be available at the end of this year, that will be available to many millions of people who speak Spanish. But I hope that the book will be read, and because everyone can understand, regardless of what their language is, that simply stopping themselves from horrendous or mild attitudes that do damage and that hurt in their lifetime is something that they don't want. I have not met people, including very bad people in prison, who did not want to basically be good people. I'm hopeful that enough of the people in the world are going to use this book. It's very, very simple. And so that I hope that I live long enough. I feel as though I've lived productively into my 91st year because of this understanding which I've developed during my career, because I employ the rules myself and effectively, and it enables me to keep being productive, so that I'm writing another book now to explain some of the scientific understanding that arises as a result of the daily rules, why the daily rules work, why do we evolve into a better person. I want to be able to explain that using the scientific understanding.
Well, after the viewers read this book, I'm pretty certain they will be waiting for your second book.
Well, James, now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, because you've been working with me, and I'd like to get your perspective about a couple of things, including one of the most important aspects of how the stopping occurs is the amygdala, which is the point in the brain where stopping actually takes place, and where an instinct which is processed in the amygdala, which is a very important portion of the brain, transmits the emotions, and that when the stopping takes place, that the emotion that is instinctive, like anger, is stopped, and as a result of stopping it, which is an instinct that's not working, why there's another part of the amygdala which goes to the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is where we do our thinking. And See, anger doesn't do any thinking. It doesn't have time. And the amygdala is what makes this possible. Two almond-shaped
structures inside
right.
the temporal lobe of the brain. And the amygdala, I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Weingarten. It is so important. It's one of the most primitive structures of the brain, and it is very powerful. That's why when we become angry or fearful, our instincts take over, and there's a power that is behind that. And that urge, it's difficult to be able to control that. But if a person practices with this book, My Daily Rules to Live By, it gives them the ability to stop themselves. And it's groundbreaking. It's really game-changing. I think one of the reasons that Coach K from Duke University, Mike Krzyzewski, I think one of the reasons why he recommended this book was because in certain situations, especially in sports, sometimes the athletes react very angrily, quickly, instantaneous. But it happens to everybody, whether or not they're driving a car and has a little bit of road rage. But that's why practicing the daily rules, understanding the self-awareness is so key. And I think that it's going to benefit not just a small group of people. We talked about older people, we talked about younger people, we even talked about prisoners. It's going to really benefit everyone.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your own experience with the daily rules, why the way it's benefited you. You've helped me a good deal in getting this book written effectively and saying it extremely well, because you do find the right ways to express reality and describe it, which complements my ability in writing. So I wonder, how has it affected you? I know it's affected you for the better, but what would be an example?
Well, for the sake of time, I'll give a very, very brief answer. I have noticed that my interactions with other human beings have been so much better, so much better. Whether it's my clients, as a counselor, I've seen clients, and I think my non-judgmental attitude, my ability to sit and listen to their stories, however traumatic it may be, by giving them an ear that is non-critical, I think it is all because of my daily rules to live by. Professionally, I have seen that I have seen that effect that it has had in my life. Personally, my own relationships have been made that much better. For some time, I didn't have very good relations with a sibling of mine, and that has all but resolved. I mean, we are on not just speaking terms, but I'm invited to the holidays with him and his family. We have very good relations, and I attribute that to practicing my daily rules to live by. Thank you for those questions. You kind of turned the tables on me here as the interviewee, but thank you.
I know how effective you are, so I'm glad to hear that the daily rules have helped in regard to helping you as well in your being a psychologist counselor.
So I should say that we're so grateful for your time and the benefit of having you discuss your book, My Daily Rules to Live By, How to Become a Better Person. I'd like to also thank Channel 28 for giving us this time to present Dr. Weingarten and his book. This has been just wonderful. I am so appreciative to the viewers for also taking the time to tune in to Channel 28 and be with us here to hear from the noted psychiatrist, Dr. Saul Weingarten.